Namaste, greetings and blessings, and welcome to the Center for Spiritually Integrated Arts. This is our Sunday message, and I am Reverend Dr. Raymont Anderson, the founder and spiritual director of this center. And I invite you to watch not only this Sunday message, but any of our archived messages. I invite you to join any classes or events that we have going on. I invite you to reach out and email if you have any questions. Questions about this community, questions about me, questions about what we do, or questions about this science of mind and spirit, liberation theology that we practice and teach. And if by chance you find yourself seeking beloved community with other like-minded beings, even if you already belong, are a member of another community, church, or center, you are more than free to have multiple affiliations wherever you are fed and find community. You are invited. And lastly, feel free to click like, subscribe, and share this or any other message or announcements with others in your circle. And with that, much appreciation, love, and blessings. Enjoy the message. Namaste and greetings, and welcome to week number 2 of our third month of the year. Whoo! The still small voice is what we are talking about today, and yet we will not be talking about it the way we normally talk about it. When we reference the still small voice of God, we tend to do so anthropomorphically, and we do this quite often. And for the record, it is important to be mindful. For the record, the voice of God, this thing that we call the voice of God, which is your intuition, your wisdom, your creativity, your imagination, all of that, the voice of God is not small. Keep in mind what Yoda said, judge me by my size, do you? As well you should not, for my ally is the force, and a powerful ally it is. The voice of God is neither small nor is it quiet. Breathe. Now, we tend to reference it as both small and quiet because we have been conditioned, we have been domesticated to ignore our intuition, to second guess those intuitive hits or the creative ideas. Is that really a good idea? I mean, what if I write the book and people don't like the book and so we second guess and then we poo-poo it and we poo-poo it into it was just a memory. So we turn down, quote unquote, the volume of because we are practicing ignoring it. And anything that you practice, you develop greater skill at, and anything you do not practice atrophies. So what atrophies? Our intuitive muscles. The intuition is ever present because God is ever present. But through lack of use, our ability to access it atrophies. What increases? Our ability to ignore it. Those muscles we build. So once again, the question is, are we aligned? Are we receptive? Are we active to this thing that we call the voice of God? Because the voice of God, the voice of creation, is loud and clear. But it's only loud and clear when we are aligned, when we are receptive, and when we are active in it. So the question becomes, if you're aligned, if you're active, etc., are you listening? And if you're listening, how are you listening? No, let's go back. How are you listening? And when I say, how are you listening? What I mean is, for those who are in the category of what we call hearing people, we listen with our ears. Sound vibrations go in through the auditory canal, striking the eardrum, etc. But for someone who is deaf, they don't listen the same way. They listen with their eyes. The language, American Sign Language, is a visual language, a three-dimensional language. They listen in the way they interact in community through deaf culture. Well, what about someone who is deaf and blind? They listen through their sense of tactile touch. So once again, how do you listen? When staring at a beautiful piece of art or not so beautiful piece of art, you're just staring at art. How do you listen to what is being communicated through this piece of art? When you are walking through nature or sitting on a beach, how are you listening to the crashing of the waves and the breeze as it touches your skin and the sunlight? How are you listening to what nature is communicating? When you are in meditation and you are being present, how do you listen? What does that entail for you? Because how you listen to your intuition may be very different than how Ray listens to his intuition. Ray may see images in his mind's eye. You may feel a tingling on your neck. And when that happens, you know that is the voice of God. That is my divine wisdom communicating and offering me something. Am I listening? Because listening implies active engagement, right? Like I can hear Tracy talking upstairs. She's on the phone or whatever. I can hear her, but I'm talking to you. But if I pause and listen, I can tell who she's talking to and what she's talking about. Hearing, simply observing. Have you ever walked through an art gallery or a museum and you just scan the art? You scan the art. You look, you scan, you look, you scan. You see it, but you're not looking at it. Sometimes we are in conversations and I hear the person sitting across from me until such time as what I hear then is just as I'm no longer listening. My mind has drifted, my attention has drifted. So once again, how do you listen? Sylvia Clare says, intuition, the voice of God, is the highest form of intelligence. Transcending all individual abilities and skills, intuition, the voice of God, is the highest form of intelligence because it is wisdom. And this wisdom transcends all other individual abilities and skills. How is this showing up in your life? Breathe. For a moment, let us enter into the game show world. Hello and welcome to today's show where we are talking about who is this? By any chance, if I were to ask you for the $1,000 question, who is this? Do you know who this is? Would you like a hint? Your hint is this character comes from a movie that was made in 1996 or aired in 1996, which is based on a movie from 1940, which is based on a book from 1883. Bum, 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 bum. Do you have an answer yet? Oh no, so let's just wait a second now. Do you still don't? Okay. What about if I give you another hint? So, you know, we mentioned there was a 1940 film. Well, this is the version from the 1940 film. Any idea yet? Still no? Okay. Let's go for hint number 3. What if I then add ba-da-da-da, Pinocchio? Oh, you got it now. 1940 version is Jiminy the Cricket. But the 1993 version, that's not his name. His name in that version is Pepe, and he is the voice of Pinocchio's conscience. He's the voice of God for the fairy tale. In this fairy tale, he is the supreme guardian of the knowledge of good and evil. Intuition is the highest form of intelligence. He is the guardian, supreme guardian of the knowledge of good and evil. He is a counselor and a guide who was given this task by the Blue Fairy. Now, although he is a Disney character, a fairy tale, a fable, the archetype of this character exists in and for all of us. Why? Because the voice of God exists for all of us. Now breathe that in, because there's a $1 million question coming up. And the $1 million question is, how do you distinguish between the chattering voice of the ego and the voice of intuition? Pause for a second and let me offer you something. The chattering voice of the ego that we are referring to right now, the chattering, the monkey mind of the ego, is when we ego, edge God out. That's a non-life affirming version of the ego. But a life affirming version of the ego is ego, expressing or embodying God only. How do you discern between which of these you are listening to and which one you are activating and actively embodying? How do you discern? Because how you do and how I do and how they do, very, very, very different versions. Now, the archetype, this magical talking cricket, Pepe, shows up as a divine spirit for this fairy tale. He is wise. He is omnipotent in the fairy tale. He is a teller of truths, and he accompanies Pinocchio on all his vast adventures. Aliases: the voice of truth, the voice of God, the voice of truth, a teller of truths, one who speaks about principle. Occupations: teller of truths, prophet, the one who has the prophetic vision of what the character, Pinocchio, is guided to do or be. And divine messenger. By any chance, did you know that the etymology of the word angel is messenger? Huh. Where does this archetype show up in, for, and as you? When are you the teller of truths? When do you listen to that which is the truth of you, speaking the truth about you or about another? When do you listen to your own innate divine messages? Or when do you deliver? When are you the divine messenger for another? Because once again, this voice of God is ever present because God is ever present, right? So when we talk about this idea of still, which Eckhart Tolle is offering us, wisdom comes when one is able to be still. I want you to think of still two separate ways. Still, as in when you are in class, young man, sit still. Don't move. Still, meaning continuous. Are you still studying art? Two ways of thinking and using this word. Wisdom comes when we are able to be still and still continue to simply look and simply listen. Nothing else is needed. Stillness, looking and listening, activates the non-conceptual intelligence, the wisdom that is nestled within you. Let stillness, the voice of God, let stillness, your intuition, let stillness direct your thinking, your speaking, your feeling, and your actions. So wisdom comes when we are able to be present. No need to be busy. Be present and continue to be in that state of active listening, embodying, and taking action. Breathe. Now, oftentimes we think this kind of wisdom, this stillness, only comes when we meditate. And it certainly comes when we meditate effectively, yes, without a doubt. And yet, if the voice of God is ever communicating because that which God is ever present and ever expressing, then the same wisdom is accessible whether we're meditating or washing dishes, whether we're shoveling snow or putting out a wildfire, whether we are walking into a voting booth or we are running for office. This same divine wisdom is ever present. So once again, the question comes up, how are you accessing it and embodying it, being receptive to it? Sylvia Clare once again offers us, open your thoughts to the probability that you are more intuitive than you realize. And thank you very much. That's our service for today. Okay, we could stop right there, but whew, open your consciousness to the idea, not the possibility, the probability that you are far more intuitive, that you are far more capable of listening to the voice of God, embodying the voice of God, than you even realize. Why would we not realize it? Conditioning, how we have been indoctrinated and domesticated. So pause for a moment and be still and open your mind to the idea that you are more intuitive. You have greater access to the divine than you may realize. And what does that mean for you? Intuition is a sense of knowing how to act spontaneously without needing to know why. My intuition says, do not go down this street. But why? I want to know why. Why do you not want me to go down the street? Why? Why? I don't need to know why. I had this intuitive hit that said no, or said go, or said, and I simply follow spontaneously without the need for a dissertation that gives me a detailed explanation as to why do you not want me to buy this box of cereal? And then later find out that the cereal was recalled. Why do you not want me to go down I-95? To later find out that there was something, a trucker spilled and, the whole highway is blocked now. But why do you? Intuition is a sense of knowing how to act without needing to know why you are acting that way. So once again, how are you listening? And what are you listening to? What are you listening with? What are you listening as? And how are you acting according to that? Now, once again, we often think that we have to separate or segregate ourselves from the rest of the world in order to gain this intuitive wisdom and divine intelligence. And for some people, that may be necessary, but at some point, you climb the top of the mountain and you're staying there for the purpose of what? Our point is to be engaged in the world. Wait, isn't there a passage or something in the Bible that says something about being in the world but not of the world? Navigate in and around the people of a certain consciousness, but don't be of that consciousness. Work in a hospital where people come in who are broken and sick, but don't be broken and sick yourself because you are a physician who is there to care for them. So rather than thinking we have to separate or segregate ourselves, understand that this divine knowledge and wisdom is present right where we are, no matter what. So knowledge, because we've talked about intelligence and, wisdom, and what is knowledge? What is wisdom? And are they the same thing? Can they be the same thing? Is there an overlap? Are they two completely separate things? Words. When you speak of knowledge, I have the knowledge, the awareness of what? You go to school and you learn 2 plus 2 equals 4. That's knowledge. And it is often said that wisdom is how you apply that knowledge. So using mathematical laws and principles to balance a checkbook or start a business is an applied sense of that knowledge. And if you do it effectively with discernment, etc., then you are employing wisdom. Okay. Tomato, maybe. What or where is God's voice in all of this, whether it's knowledge and or wisdom? And what does this mean? Where is intuition, whether it's knowledge or wisdom? Or is intuition the thing that is holding these two signs together? Intuition is the vertical pole that holds knowledge and wisdom. I don't know. I'm asking you. Because it really doesn't matter what I say in terms of, I can tell you what the dictionary says about these words, but what I want to know is how do they apply for you? How do you actively use these in your life? And how and where is the voice of your divine awareness, your divine knowledge, your divine wisdom? Where is that within all of it? So once again, we could ask, how are you listening? With what are you listening? Now, when speaking of the Bible, because that's where this phrase comes from, the point of God speaking in this still small voice, was to show Elijah that the work of God need not always be accompanied with some dramatic bells and whistles, revelations, or manifestations. God's work is the rose blooming. God's work is the fragrance of a freshly mowed lawn, whatever. It doesn't have to be fireworks and burning bushes. So that's why in the Bible, the voice of God is referenced this way. But once again, the voice of God, this divine wisdom, is loud and clear in all of the ways that it is expressed. Question once again is, how are we open to and receptive to this divine wisdom that is all that there is, and it being all that there is everywhere present right now? Breathe. Joel Goldsmith offers us, the mystics reveal that in silence and in stillness lies our strength. In silence and in stillness we find God, not in external worship. Now, his point in this is simply saying that many are looking for God in all the wrong places. They're looking for God in temples and in shrines and in holy places as if that's the only place God is. God certainly is there because God is everywhere. God is everywhere, as you may have heard me say before. God is so everywhere that everywhere is non-existent. There is nowhere for God to be. So we say everywhere because our knowledge says that there are various locations. And I know where I put my keys, and I know where I go to work, locations. So because in this physical relative form of expression, we understand locations. So we reference God as omnipresent. God is in all of these locations, but God is beyond location. For God, there is no locate. There is no space for God. God is space. So God is not omnipresent. God is omnipresence itself. So he is offering us the idea that says when we go to that space within our awareness that knows and knows that it knows, I don't need this external. I am quiet within my own consciousness. And quiet simply means I am not listening to the ramblings of, remember that chattering ego mind. I am quiet in, I am still in, I am present in, with, and as the truth of my being. Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all else will be added unto you. The kingdom of heaven is within. As within, so without. So, how do you access? What is your method or tool or technique for entering into the silence other than meditation? for entering into the silence, being in that place of stillness, other than meditation. Because once again, we don't have to. Meditation isn't the only access point. It's not the only access point to God. God is all there is. So, how else do you make use of or access? Dr. Holmes offers just what is meant by the silence, a contemplation in the quiet of the mind when the objective tumult is temporarily stilled and we rise in our consciousness to the place of pure causation, which is spirit. The objective tumult, when the busyness of the world, when the chattering of the monkey mind, whether it's the individual monkey mind or the collective monkey mind, when that is, shh, go sit down. And we rise in consciousness to that place where infinite awareness and pure causation occur. There is only one mind, and that mind is God, and that mind is your mind now. That space of pure causation, which is God, Spirit, Source. That's what he, at least Dr. Holmes, that's what he means by the silence. Again, the question, how are you entering into the silence? How are you being still and know? What does that look like for you? How does that show up in your life? Be still and know. When you can be still and know, what changes and transforms in your life? What shows up for you? Things should shift. Things should happen differently. How is that? What is that? And if they're not, then the invitation is to come back to this space of be still. And remember, still, two words, be still and know what? Know the way knowledge knows, or know the way wisdom knows? Breathe. So no matter the tradition, our invitation to be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that you are that which is. It's all there could be. It's all that you are. Om Tat Sat. I am that which I am, ever becoming more of itself as me. Breathe and be still and know. I am that I am. But I am even more than that which I simply am. I am that which is ever becoming more of itself as me. Be still and know. Be open at the top and the bottom and be still and know that what you are is that which is God, ever becoming more of itself, God, as you right now. Swami Dhyan Gitten says, silence is the source of healing. When we bring things from within ourselves out into the light of awareness, a healing process happens. In silence, we can let go of all anger, sadness, fear, anxiety, loneliness, frustration, dread. We can let it go in the silence. Because in that silent space of the ego, where we only express God or embody God rather than edging God out, we embody God only in the silence. We express God only in the silence. And in that silence, there is healing. And once again, the temple of your being is wherever you go, no matter the time of year, no matter the season, no matter the space. As Aristotle says, to know thyself. This is the beginning of wisdom. To know knowledge of thyself, this is the beginning of wisdom. To what degree do you know yourself? Do you know yourself as you have been conditioned to know yourself, or do you know yourself as you truly are? And in terms of knowing yourself, what gives you the capacity or the ability to even know yourself? In order for you to know me or get to know me, you have to read about me or listen to me or have conversation with me, ask other people about me. There are ways to get to know, but what do you do for you? How are you enabling yourself to get to know you better? Are you doing the same thing? Are you asking others? Excuse me, when you think of me, what comes to your mind? Really? Pause. Oh my goodness. Are you enabling yourself to use the full spectrum of all that is available to you to truly learn about yourself? Because that is part of the process of getting to the space of the still small voice of God, the loud and clear voice of God, the loud and clear expression of your intuition and your creativity. The more you know yourself. Borisenko says, the fruits of centering and remaining in silence are evident, even in daily work and activities. Suddenly, you become aware of God's presence and a greater dimension of yourself, and your surroundings becomes evident. The more we get to know ourselves, becomes evident. The more we engage and listen and embody intuition and all of this stuff becomes evident. This greater dimension becomes evident. This healing becomes evident. A world that works for all becomes evident. But are we doing this? Once again, how are we listening? How are we acting? How are we engaging? Because as she says, even in daily work and activities, she didn't segregate and say only in meditation and moments of silence on great mountaintops, in ashrams and temple. She said in work, daily work and activities. All of it is present at any and every point within itself. It is not approaching a point, not receding from it, but it is always at the point. The whole of God is present at any and every point within God. Now, once again, this idea in the area of duality, we are thinking of there is a, for example, a north, south, east, and west pole. There are points. There are areas. All of it is present at any and every point within itself. But what is beyond the points? It simply is. The whole of God is present, period. The whole of God is present because the whole of God is presence itself. Breathe. So that means right where you are, God is, God must be. It's present everywhere, every when, it's present. So what does that mean for us? Well, I want to pause for a second and think about this idea of witches. Yeah, I know this is an odd tangent, but follow me as we go. There are many archetypes and ways that this concept of witches have been expressed and displayed throughout our time. And the key thing that I want us to recognize and understand about this, same thing with the archetype of the cricket, the archetype of the witch. There is this idea that says the witch, as Paulo Coelho says, to me, a witch is a woman that is capable of letting her intuition take hold of her actions, that communes with her environment, that isn't afraid of facing challenges. To me, a witch is a woman who listens to the voice of God as it expresses in, through, and as her. And as a result of that, shifts, changes, transforms whatever is needing to be healed and transformed and evolved. Yes, I know, I'm good for coming up with an acronym. So I want you to think about being a witch. I got ready to do the witch laugh. Think about being a witch, being someone who is wondrously intuitive, transformative consciousness. And here's the kicker: someone who is holy. I want you to think of yourself in this way, that you are wondrously intuitive. You embody transformative consciousness, that you are holy, and in so doing this, embodying your inner witch archetype, you understand what it means to defy gravity. Thank you, Elphaba. What does it mean for you to defy gravity? Remember what Paolo said, to someone who is not afraid to face challenges. Are you willing to face whatever challenges are before you, however those challenges show up? And are you willing to defy gravity to heal them and transform them? It is your intuition, your divine knowing, that gives you both the call and the capacity to defy gravity. Now, gravity could be any number of things for any of us. Gravity could be the way the toxic patriarchy shows up. How do you defy gravity? It can be racism. How do you defy gravity? The thing that would hold you down, how do you defy it so that it cannot hold you down? Lynn Robinson says, honor your desire for a new life. Say yes to the small inklings of interest and curiosity that present themselves to you each day. Say yes, a full-bodied yes, to your desire and your capacity to live a life that you desire and deserve to live. And be aware, as James Baldwin said, that not everything that is faced can be changed at that level, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. There are some people, no matter how much we talk to them, they are not going to change. Their degree of whatever is going to remain. They are held in place by the gravity of their consciousness. And so we bless them and we pray, but it is theirs to change. So not everything, not everyone can be changed the way we would like. But this is never going to change if we don't face it. They are never going to change if we don't face them. Systems are never going to change if we don't face them. So what is yours to do, and how are you willing to face the challenges and the gravity and the ways that we are taught to edge God out? What are you invited to do to move through and beyond that and take flight and soar because you are listening to your divine voice in the stillness and the silence of your own consciousness? The Science of Mind and Spirit 4.0 offers us a way of honoring, embodying, and acting upon the divine knowing that is already available to us, in us, through us, and as us. When we tune out or quiet what some call the monkey mind, the mental chatter, and internal busyness that we have been trained, conditioned to listen to and be distracted by, we can then change the external conditions around us. Conditions that impact us individually and those of the collective as well. Our teaching, being a liberation theology, affords us a way out of the noisiness of separation, hatred, hostilities, othering, and more. And we are able to reorient ourselves to the truth of oneness. And it is then and it is there that we consciously create a world that works for all. Breathe. This week's affirmation or declaration, I'll say it first, and if it resonates with you, I invite you to say it with me the second time around. Today, I consciously allow the voice of God, as found in stillness, to express as me. Yeah, there should be a 2 on there. Together, today, I consciously allow the voice of God, as found in stillness, to express as me. And so it is. This week's journal questions or Thursday night study group questions. How do I access my intuition? What does my intuition look like, feel like, sound like? How do I differentiate between my intuition and my conditioned mind, or my wishing mind, or my daydreaming or simply dreaming mind? Number 2, what are 3 things my intuition offered me yesterday that I listened to? What is 1 that I did not listen to, and why did I not listen? Number 3, what are the practices that bring me to stillness where I am more apt to recognize my intuition? And how often do I practice them? Number 4, where in my life do I let gravity hold me down? And what am I invited to do to defy gravity? 5, what does it mean for me to declare and embody, be still, and know that I am God? Whew, that one, whew, take a breath. Whew. What does it mean for me to declare and embody, be still, and know that I am God? And then lastly, what might change if I let my inner WITCH, my inner witch, express? And breathe as we enter into that space for our closing prayer, where we simply know and know that we know, even when we don't know that we know, or don't know that we don't know, the knowing is still there. So in this moment, I avail myself, and as I say I, all are invited to I for themselves. I avail myself to the infinite awareness that says, I know what I know, and even when I don't know a thing, I know that there is an infinite intelligence and infinite wisdom that knows all things, for it is all things. So when I don't know what is going on the other side of the world, when I don't know what's going on right now in Washington, D.C., in the White House, I know that there is an infinite intelligence that knows. I know that there is an infinite awareness that knows. I know in the infinite pool of consciousness how I align my awareness ripples through the very tapestry of all that is. That's what oneness means. And as more of us tune in and tap in to this infinite awareness, this divine voice of God that shows up as our intuition and our creativity, it also shows up in our ability and capacity to liberate one another. It shows up as our capacity and ability to create and manifest a world that truly works for all. By elevating consciousness, not by remaining in the old systems of lack, scarcity, separation, and othering, but by evolving through prophetic vision, through prophetic creation. We create new systems, and these new systems operate within a world that works for all. So we breathe and avail ourselves to this infinite awareness, this embodied knowing. And from this place of deep listening and embodiment, we act. And it is from this place of action that healing takes place, transformation occurs, and a world that works for all is evident. Breathe, because I know it is already answered. It is already in motion. It is already answered prayer. And so it is. So it is. Namaste, blessings, much love and appreciation, everyone. As always, we'll see you during the week for any of the events going on during the week. And otherwise, see you next Sunday. Blessings and love.